according to a meta-analysis based um, on almost 30,000 children, the screen time increased from 1.4 to 2.7 hours during the pandemic. So we saw a huge increase, and it hasn't gone back down because the pandemic is over. I don't know all of our experiences in the group around how much screen time their families are using, but love to hear a little more about that. Um, so there are obviously some benefits. It's not all downside. For example, staying connected to the modified classroom environments during the pandemic, or allowing people to do more education online, which leaves more times for family members to be home or to raise children, not having to commute all the time. Um, being able to research topics of interest and share new skills, like through YouTube. Like, I've learned to fix many things in my home through YouTube videos, and staying in touch with family members that may be in distant places. So that's some good things. So what are the effects, negative effects? I think there is a lot of studies that highlight the social, emotional, obesity, sleep disturbance, depression, anxiety associated with excessive amount of screen time, and um, the you know impact on our social skills. I think that as adults, when we use screens, we are less likely to experience adverse effects than children, because children are learning more important developmental skills. And I'm going to talk about why they're more grossly affected than adults. So this are correlation studies, not causation studies. But if you look at the percentage of American high school students who experience suicidal thoughts in or feelings, you can see that both sad or hopeless feelings went way up around 2015, and there was a dip around 2009 and 2010 of suicidal thoughts, and then there was an increase again back to sort of 1999, 2000 levels. And we have some theories in the reason why. Around 2008, 2009, there was an advent of the use of antidepressants, more antidepressants in children, which may have reduced suicidal thoughts. But then the FDA sort of put a black box on it. So that contributed as well to the decrease in prescriptions, but also it was the advent of screens. So the suicidal ideation and thoughts went back up again. That's some of our theories, although these are correlation studies. Um, this is a study on social media and teens, showing a definitely increase in social media use, especially for girls. And then this is a mental illness among college students, showing an extreme increase in anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, anorexia, substance abuse, and schizophrenia, all increasing around the time of social media and other kinds of screen times. Now, these are correlation studies, not causation, but we can all agree that this is a factor, and a pretty scary factor. Especially anxiety seems to be the biggest increase. Obviously, ADHD is a big increase as well, and depression. So, and I'll talk more about that too. And this is the emergency room visits for self-harming, and that's pretty, it's pretty great data to look at what the increase has been, and it's just enormous increase of self-harm. And I see it in my practice just constantly. Cutting and self-injury has increased tremendously since I started in this field. So I'm going to talk about the 4 categories of screen time and harm of screen time, starting with social deprivation. So people overestimate the risk of the real world and underestimate risk of the virtual world. So, for example, if you keep your kids home, you might think, oh, they're less likely to be sexually assaulted, but most sexual predators are online. So it's actually not true. Or you get all of these ideas that engaging in the real world is dangerous. However, um, we've become a world where, well, like school boards will, get rid of uh, Mothers for Liberty, let's say, will go into these school boards and have them sort of throw out all of these books on LGBTQ, right, or any kind of sexualized contents in libraries and in schools, but yet there's those same children are home at that very same moment. The mom's at the meeting searching up pornography. So it's just like we are overestimating the risks of books and underestimating the risks of just what's in our hand 24/7. So, when we talk about the first risk, which is social or harm, social deprivation, right? Um, what does that have to do with screen time? So if you look at daily time spent with friends in minutes, you can look from 2003 and 2019, and you can just see, especially for 15 to 24-year-olds, how impacted they've been by not only social media, but the safetyism that's been pervading our culture, which we'll talk a little more about. The why is free play so important? Because free play is something that we have been hardwired to do. The human brain is mostly developed in terms of size by age 5, but you spend from age 5 to the time you reproduce, which you could argue whatever time that is, but into adulthood, uh, engaging in a lot of free play. Animals do it, all kinds of animals. And what is the point of it, right? The point of free play is to learn how to handle risk and learn how to form social bonds and connections. And without free play, we are sometimes left with no real good social or skills to navigate risk. For example, things like playgrounds have become more and more sanitized. It used to be you could get bruises and cuts on playgrounds. Now they're all, sanitized in a way that children really don't know how to mitigate risk on their own, because they never really had to fall and get hurt so many times. They learned what's dangerous, what's not dangerous. For other examples is kids have less time to like roam their neighborhoods and learn who's the bully and how to navigate the bully and how to form, social collectives and who's in and who's out. And, you know, bullying is not great if it's over long term, like if someone gets bullied every day, but small amounts of bullying develop it helps you develop resilience. I mean, I'm sure you guys all remember being bullied as a kid and how it sort of made you stronger because you learned how to stand up for things. So all these social connections happen without parents being involved, without teachers being involved, like the playground being unmonitored. And we are now practicing a lot more what we're going to call safetyism, where kids are not being left alone. For example, in baby boomers, by 6, right, they were allowed to play outside in their own yard. By 7, they could stay home alone, and by 8, they were out on their own in their community. Now those times have moved to 8, 10, I mean 10, 12, and 14. So by 10, kids are being allowed to play alone in their yards. By 12, stay home for an hour, and by 14, outside more into the world. So it's changed tremendously the kind of independence we give, and with no real data to back up that the world is more unsafe. As a matter of fact, the data says the world was way more unsafe then in terms of getting hit by a car or getting you know sexually assaulted or kidnapped. All those measures have gone down, yet we believe the cost is much higher than it is. So now we have helicopter and overprotective parents, and free play begins to decline. Also, kids are way over scheduled. So it's a huge cultural shift. One little slide. We've created a safe, non-judgable environment that your child will leave your child ill-prepared for real life. And then if you look at like the amount of teens engaging in adult activities, right, you can see alcohol consumption, work, driver's license, sexual intercourse, all plummeting amongst teenagers now. And at first you might say, well, that's good. They're consuming less alcohol. That's good. They're not, having sex at an earlier age. But This is, not necessarily a good thing because now they're getting to older ages with absolutely no preparation for the real world and never having tried different things that might be risky behavior when they get older, so they have no experience. So it's not as good as it might sound. Um, so um, 40% of children under the age of 13 have an Instagram account, even though either social media companies say don't, it's not a good idea. And they just create fake birthdays. Parents are none the wiser. Or they'll have Finsta accounts, fake Instagram accounts, where they'll create a fake profile to fool their parents. Um, so what well, and I guess the problems of the social media is many-fold, but everything from the fake Instagram accounts and the Instagram accounts making you compare yourself constantly to others. It also decreases the children and teenagers do a lot of get a lot of their skills from comparing themselves to others. And in the past, it used to be comparing yourself to the pretty girl at school or the cheerleader or the professor you had a crush on, or all of these people were real people with real problems and they could see the pros and cons. But now these Instagram influencers, these are just presenting a certain angle of themselves, an extreme angle of themselves. So children are comparing and teenagers are comparing themselves to the unattainable, basically, and it's resulting in a lot of feelings of sadness and self-esteem issues. The second problem we're seeing with screen times is sleep deprivation. You can really, really look at how much less time kids are getting for sleep. And these are correlations, not all screen time. Of course, there's the pressure to do well in school and the overscheduling of kids, but there's definitely a correlation between sleep deprivation. A review of 36 correlational studies found significant associations between high social media use and poor sleep and poor mental health outcomes. One experiment found that adolescents who restricted their use of screen times after 9 p.m. showed an increase in total sleep time, earlier sleep onset, improved in performance on tasks. So there's some data to back up that this is a correlation. So sleep is extremely important. So I wanted to go over how I deal with sleep issues in my practice because I thought it might be something that might help your audience. And I have a great toolkit for sleep that goes into this more details than I put in this slide. But um, kids to sleep in their own beds with rewards. I use a lot of sleep trackers, so having them wear a Fitbit just to kind of see what time they're going to bed, what time they're waking up, and how much slow wave and other kinds of sleep they're getting. And Fitbits are just bracelets. There's no screen on that. No TV in their room, including parents. All devices out of the bedroom at night. No blue light. Colder bedrooms. Keep window shades open to use natural light to wake up. It's kind of our instinct to use blackout curtains or whatever. Actually, it's not good for the brain. It doesn't regulate the sleep-wake cycle. You want to be up with the sun. Early morning walks promote dopamine. So as soon as you wake up, taking a quick walk outside. We're also busy in the mornings, but whenever possible. Exercise, no food after 8. Yoga, nidra, and theta waves are types of music that are really helpful. I have a list of safe and natural supplements if your child can't sleep, such as magnesium, ashwagandha, and GABA. Weighted blankets, and nothing but sleeping in your bed. Don't do your homework in your bed. Don't be watching TV. Don't be on your phone. If you can't, you buy a love seat or some other comfortable chair in your room and get up and do those things on that chair. And as a matter of fact, studying is best done at a desk with a comfortable chair, so you can sort of compartmentalize. Bed is for sleep, desk is for homework. No screens in your bed or your desk. You have like a specific screen time couch. um I say nothing, sleep in bed, nothing else, with one exception, of course. As adults, we have sex in bed. So That's the exception. And get out of the bed when you cannot sleep. So only 10 minutes of restlessness in bed. But when you cannot sleep, get out of the bed, read a book somewhere else, do something somewhere else for 10 minutes, and then go back to bed. Don't just sit in bed tossing and turning, because the whole point is we're Pavlovian. We have a lower conscious mind, which once you start sleeping well in bed, every time you get to that bed, you'll just fall asleep. We're creatures of habit. Do anybody have questions about sleep? Good topic. Okay, great. Um, So, the third risk I want to talk about with screens is attention fragmentation. So it's showing the rates of ADHD going up since 2003. And I see it. As a matter of fact, there is a huge stimulant shortage in America right now. Every time I write a prescription for Ritalin or Adderall, it's likely the pharmacy won't carry it because of increase in demand and lack of increase of supply. So it's definitely become a problem I never had before. I mean, listen, there's a lot of reasons for the increase of ADHD: bigger classroom sizes, lack of uh, time to do more athletics, lack of free play, all these different things. But one connection is attention fragmentation. So screens, for the average person, 192 phone notifications and 11 per hour. And what that means is, as soon as a kid starts to read a book or starts to do homework, something bings on their phone, and then they go on the off ramp. And so they never learn how to get into a flow state. Like we used to when we were kids. I was so excited to finish my book, sometimes spending an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours finishing my book. And I learned to get into those flow states with school and homework. But these kids don't really know how to get themselves into flow states and really commit and use their attention and leverage their motivation in a way that we could as kids. So that's one of
Dr.
the
Lace,
third. Yes, sure.
we did have a question come in. It
Sure,
says,
great.
when do kids get their own bedroom?
Oh, so I don't think that kids need their own bedroom. I think that kids, sharing a bedroom is a great thing, and never is the answer. I mean, I don't think there's any reason to give their kid their own bedroom unless you want to, because learning how to, socially navigate a sibling relationship is great. I mean, if you want to give your kid their own bedroom, do it. But there's no reason for mental health or other reasons, even for a girl and a boy to share a bedroom in their teen years. There's really no evidence that them doing so is harmful for either party. So, they can learn to navigate that. You could create a little curtain or a little thing to give them some privacy, or they each have their own little edge of the room with their own stuff, and privacy around that, like a bunk bed with a curtain. But there is absolutely no reason to give kids their own bedroom unless you want to. There's no evidence to show that's children should sleep in their own bed. I believe that, because co-sleeping for children creates sometimes some bad habits around never learning how to soothe themselves. um, but I don't really believe that children need their own bedroom. Um, okay. So the next is, I wanted to say, with the attention fragmentation, um, they looked at a study where kids were asked to leave their phone and bag out of the lab, keep their phone with them in their pocket or bag, or put their phone on their desk next to them, and then remember a string of numbers. And they found that performance was best when phone were left in the other room, and worse where phones were visible. And the effect was higher with heavy phone users. So you can really see how it impacts our memories in studies. So the next slide is around harm four of screens, which is the
Dr.
dopamine. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, we had a
No, please.
correction in that question. The question was meant to be, uh, when do kids, when is it meant for them not to sleep in their parents' room? And then we have a
Oh, I
sec
see.
And then we have a secondary question with regards to ADHD and if medication is mandatory when your child is diagnosed.
Sure, great. The first question is, when should a kid not co-sleep with their parents? Co-sleeping is really useful when you have a young child, like a baby, because of nursing and all those other reasons. But I feel by the age of 2, you should really try to get your child out of your bedroom and into whatever room they're going to be with their siblings, because they can sleep through the night. They won't disturb the other children. Um, that are in the room. And I think the reason why I feel very strongly about this is because they develop self-soothing skills and skills to be able to navigate the world more independently. And sometimes when they stay in your room, they become reliant on you as a parent to soothe them or scratch their back or do this or that, all the things, and then they don't learn how to soothe themselves. So that becomes problematic. And the second reason is because parents need alone time. They need their kids to be out of their room, because to have a healthy partnership, you need to have intimacy, and children get in the way of that. So and a healthy partnership is very important for being able to raise a child in a happy household. So those are the two reasons. And then the second was, do all kids with ADHD need medication? And the answer is no. Um, if you have mild to moderate ADHD, you can do without medicine. You can use some supplements, tyrosine, fish oil can help improve the brain function. And there is modifications to the environment that can be made. For example, 504 accommodations, which are accommodations at school to help kids get front row seating, or learning better executive functioning skills, or smaller classroom size, one-to-one tutoring. And in addition to that, really limiting their screen time for the reasons why I just said. And but it's sort of a personal preference, because if you have moderate to severe ADHD, there's nothing that's going to beat medication in terms of helping them do better in school and live up to their academic potential. And also, even with mild to moderate ADHD, the child may benefit from medication depending on the family's commitment to make a lot of changes and the school's resources. So if the school is very overcrowded, or doesn't have a lot of access to running and physical activity, or is more like Catholic schools tend to be more lecturing models, which ADHD kids don't do well in, as opposed to more like Waldorf or experiential models of learning. So it also a little bit depends on the kind of academic environment you place them in. So that's the answer. Any more questions about that? You got to run ADHD kids, you got to get them moving. They need to take a lot of breaks and move during the day, and that's not always possible in some schools. All right. Term 4, addiction, the dopamine hypothesis. So, dopamine is the chemical in the brain that creates pleasure, but also motivation. If you think about a potato chip, your dopamine will go up in thinking about how you want it, and then will plummet back down again. And it's the plummeting of the dopamine that makes you want to get off the couch and get the potato chip. And then once you have one, makes you crave more. So think of it like a 12-year-old girl trying to learn biology, trying to learn about photosynthesis. And how does social media lure them away? So they're studying biology, and all of a sudden the bing on their phone goes off that says somebody commented on their post. The action is to open up the Instagram account, and then they get a variable reward. And what that means is every time if they opened up their Instagram, it was always positive. It would have way less effect of addiction than the fact that half the time they don't get as many likes as they want, or somebody says a mean comment. That's called a variable reward. And those are the most reinforcing rewards. It's kind of like the slot machine in Vegas. If every time you put money in a slot machine, you knew you were going to get like, let's say every time you put 25 cents in a slot machine, you knew you were going to get 26 cents out. That 1 cent reward each time would not be enough to keep you going, right? Because it would just get tedious. But if basically every 10 time you got $4, but it only worked out to be 26 cents per thing, or even 24 cents or 23 cents, you do it constantly. So that's how variable rewards produce changes in behavior. And then there's another piece that goes beyond the slot machine, which is investment, right? So these teenagers are creating their profiles and, like, spending all this time investing in their social media accounts. That means the investment becomes even more reinforcing. So now you don't even need the trigger of the social media account binging or bonging or creating an alert on your phone. You're already so invested in the post you just did that you might be studying photosynthesis as a teenage girl and say, I wonder what happened with that post an hour ago. You don't even need a trigger anymore. So that's the addiction hypothesis. So now we've gone through the 4 harms of social media, of screens. So I really wanted to talk about what we can do about it, right? So some of these are extreme, but these are some of the things written in the literature. So a lot of people say no smartphones before 9th grade, flip phones only. For in my case, I just have very restricted access to their apps on their phone because iPhone allows you to do that. No social media before the age of 16, which I am following actually, because it is a little scary. Phone-free schools, which many of them are, but I tell you, many of them are not. I one school that my kid was in, the phones are collected in the morning and given back at the end of the day. I think that is far better than and now my current school, they're allowed to keep it in their backpack, and kids just can't control themselves. And more unsupervised time for play and childhood independence, risk taking, and other things. We need to be monitoring their social media accounts. If you certainly give your child a social media account, you need to be picking up their phone, not just friending them because they can make fake Instagram accounts so easy, they're not stupid, but just checking through their phones when they're sleeping at night, having all the passwords to everything so you can make sure there's nothing fishy going on. Because obviously they can be getting cyberbullied, or as we all know, you can't take it back once it's out there. So a lot of kids are getting canceled, not only like extreme form of bullying by being canceled, but also, not able to get into college or get jobs or getting into legal trouble. So, more than 1 in 3 young people have experienced cyberbullying threats, and less than half tell their parents about it. So take back family time, right? So turn off notifications, put away your cell phone during meal times, model good behavior, and arrange for activities to have screen free fun times together. A lot of camps are device free. I think that's amazing. Go to sleep, send your kid to social media, to sleepaway camp for 2 to 3 weeks with no phones at all, just in the wilderness, just playing. And it's such a great break. Allow them to get off their addiction to screens. And what are some solutions? There's collective action groups like Wait Till 8th, which talks about wait till 8th to give your kid a smartphone that allow, which is one thing they do I thought was so smart, is they basically get a group of parents together, and you have to form a collective group of at least 10 parents that all say they're going to wait till 8th to give their kids a smartphone. And what that does is, so their child's not the only one who doesn't have a smartphone. I thought that was very clever. Pressure companies into tech advances. And I wanted to say that the UK New Online Safety Act, which has held pornography, search engines, and social media platforms accountable for the effects of the harm on kids, and fine them if they don't create actionable change and do research on the effect that it's having. And we could do tech advances like fingerprinting on phones, which won't allow children to purchase off or search on phones for things that are inappropriate. Laws and rules, no phone policy, parental control, and increasing privacy protection. They have much better privacy protection in Europe and terrible in the US. And I don't understand why we've allowed our data to be harnessed and kept for years and years and years about our children. Stay involved, model a healthy approach in your own technology, provide boundaries with time limits and controls, and have fun and embrace the positive attributes of technology as well. Watching those YouTube videos with your kids on how to fix things and making a model airplane or some of those are the positives that we can embrace as well. And here are some helpful resources. Anxious Generation is a great book. Wait till 8th. Chasing Childhood is about the importance of free play. And I can also share my toolkit for sleep, which is a great resource for helping you get the right amount of sleep and helping your kids get a right amount of sleep.